Yo, yo, yo. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the High Value Agent Podcast, where we inspire people to create a better life through real estate. And I'm going to help you guys sell more houses today. We're going to focus on how can we list and sell more houses? How can we create urgency with sellers? There's going to be a lot of homeowners that you talk to that are just not ready to make a move. They have a reason to make a move, but the time frame that they tell you doesn't necessarily align with their motivation. And so how can you create urgency to, making sure obviously we're doing what's best for the client, but giving them clarity to potentially create urgency and move their time frame forward to help benefit them. And so we're going to unpack this very, very simple approach. And I kind of really break this down into three phases. So, number one, when you are communicating with homeowners on a daily basis, by the way, a big focus on your business growth in 2026 and beyond should be working with more sellers, working with more homeowners. Why? When you work with homeowners, you typically 75 to 78% of the time, that homeowner is going to sell and they're going to buy another property. So one client, two transactions, essentially. Another thing, too, listings have babies. When you put a sign in the yard, number one, you're exposing your brand, right? It's literally marketing, it's advertising. Whenever you have a sign in the ground, you are able to get referrals, you're able to get inbound leads, people calling about the listing. There's so many different ways that you can be compensated or you can get business from having one listing. As long as open houses, if you have a listing, you could do open houses. Open houses were created not to sell the property necessarily, but to generate leads. It's to generate opportunities with people who are typically middle of the funnel when it comes to the sales funnel. That's the power of being listing focused, being listing focused. So make it a priority to get very good at what we're going to talk about today. So then you can literally help make you and your family and build the life that you want even faster with less energy because you focused on listings instead of just buyers. Okay, so number one, when we talk about the three phases, the first thing is we need to gather information. We need to be a question asker to the client, to the lead. We are not using, let's just use this as an example. When we're on a phone call with a homeowner, we're not telling. We're not telling, and telling. That's what we love to do. We're not doing that. We are asking. We are asking. And we are asking questions that allow us to learn more about what their struggle is, what their motivation is, what the problem is. But then two, we're able to build rapport and trust with the individual that we're communicating with. We're not using the phone call as a consultation or as a situation where we're telling everything. I really want you to correlate this process that we're going through to a doctor's process. When you go to your doctor, when you walk in that doctor's office, you don't meet with the doctor right away. You meet with the nurse who then gathers information by asking you questions, and she either types it in or she has a chart where she writes it in. She'll ask you the normal questions that you probably have heard millions of times, right? And what she's doing is she's gathering information so then the doctor can give information, if that makes sense. I need you to correlate it the same way because if you are just going in there telling, then you're essentially what you're essentially doing is you're going to come off as someone who's more salesy. You're going to come off as someone who's more commission like commission breath. You're going to come off as someone who is probably talking more than they need to. And one thing that I've learned is the person who talks the most in the conversation feels the best after the conversation. And so who you're talking to is probably checked out. They're not so interested because you're not talking about them. You're not coming from a place to help and serve them. So back to it. Number one, gather the information. Number two, research. Research. That's your preparation. That's pulling comps. That's you dropping off the pre-listing packet. That's you doing all the things that you got to do to prepare for number three, the presentation. That's where you do the information giving. Okay. So let's unpack phase one a little more. Number one, in phase one, the information gathering phase, we have to do a neck up from the checkup. Our attitude is going to be extremely, extremely important because the psychology that you have on a daily basis is going to be a direct correlation to the success you have in that day, right? So your attitude and your approach, you have to be dialed in. You have to be feeling confident. You have to be feeling good. You have to be coming from a place of give and help. Okay. And that is going to show through your words, which is the next thing, communication in words, right? Communicate, or I'll do it this way, communication versus just words. I think that's better. Okay. So let me break this down. Communicating, effective communicating is moving the process forward of helping person get what they want and then feeling confident in the decisions that they're making based on the conversations or the communication you both are having, right? That's effective communication. There's typically a positive outcome from having effective communication. The opposite of that is just words and or lack of effective communication, which brings more uncertainty. It drives up the fear factor. And most people at that point do not want to take a step forward because of that. Right. So if you want to transfer confidence from you to the person, you have to make sure that you're effectively communicating and not just throwing out words. There's a difference between the two. And the next is when you are in those dialogues, make sure you're digging deep. Like, for example, one of the things that I talk to my agents about, people on my team, is when you're talking to a homeowner or you're talking to a buyer or you're talking to anyone, make sure that you're having level three conversations and not level one conversations like most people. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're talking to a homeowner on a phone call. It's your first time talking to them, and this person could just be an internet lead. It doesn't matter. Okay, and you're talking with them, you're having a great conversation. You identify that Sally needs to move to California because she's wanting to make the move there. Now most people will ask, okay, great, so when you move, where are you going to? Sally says California. Agent says, great, well, let me help you get to California. And then they move on, right? And they think that like California is the motivation. That's what we call a level one conversation. That's one layer deep. Okay. That's one layer deep. Level two is when you ask, tell me what's taking you to California. And Sally says, well, I'm moving to be closer to my daughter and my granddaughter. Okay, that's level two. Because now I understand that California is no longer relevant. What's relevant is the fact that she's wanting to be closer to her family, to her daughter and granddaughter. Because if daughter and granddaughter lived in New York, then California has not, like, it's just irrelevant at that point, right? So daughter and granddaughter, that's level two. Level three is, tell me more about that. Like, when you move closer to be with your family, are you going to be moving in the same city, same subdivision? What are your thoughts there? And then this is where we get it to level three. Sally tells me, well, actually, we're going to be moving in with my daughter. The plan is to only move in for about 6 months, but we're moving in because my daughter is going through a divorce. And financially, right now, she's in a position to where She has to go back to work because she just had my grandbaby. So she's a new mother. She has to go back to work here in the next month. And financially, she's in a situation where if she doesn't go back to work, then she's going to be strapped, and then that's going to jeopardize the well-being of not only my granddaughter but my daughter. And so we're going to go there. We're going to move in. We're going to help her get on her feet. And then at that point, we're going to be looking to buy our own place within a couple miles of where my daughter lives. Now, that's level 3 because I have a clear picture as to not only why she's moving to California, that's daughter or granddaughter, but even why that's important, right? So she's literally she's packing up and moving across the country to help support her daughter while she's going through a troubled time, a rough time in her life, and to make sure her granddaughter is taken care of, right? And that they got the support that they need. That has teeth in it. So now another agent, right? Then that's the conversation I had with Sally. Another agent calls Sally. They don't get to level 3 conversations. They don't because they're not asking the right questions. They're not going 3 deep. So that other agent is going to be looked at from Sally as just, oh, you're just another agent that wants to sell my house. Where Antoine is looked at as, oh, you're somebody who wants to help solve my problem and support me as I go support my daughter and my granddaughter. You see the difference, right? So make sure you dig deep. This is phase 1, information gathering, like extremely important, phase 1. Now, phase 2, that's research. Like I said before, you got to research, you got to do your due diligence as a real estate professional. But here's one thing I want to talk about, like that I don't know if all agents do, which we should, because we have all the resources in the world to be able to do it. Research the client. Look them up on Facebook. Look them up on LinkedIn, right? Learn about them. Learn about them. Learn about what they're interested in. What are their hobbies? What is their family dynamic? A lot of people put a lot of stuff on Facebook, and you can go into that meeting, that consultation, knowing a lot more about that person just from their social media, just from their LinkedIn profile. So research the person. And then obviously you got to research the property. You got to identify what is a healthy pricing strategy. You got to identify what they're going to net, what's the net profit going to be based on what the house could sell for in today's market. You got to identify what is the ability of this house actually selling in today's market based on what you know about the property, the area, the condition, all that good stuff, right? Because this is information that this is your duty, this is your obligation to be able to share this information to provide context and educate the client to make an informed decision, right? So phase 2, research. And by the way, like honestly, y'all, all 3 phases are important, but man, the more you research, the more you really dial in. Like if you pull comps, comparable homes to identify a price range or a healthy pricing strategy, and you pull that pricing strategy, and then let's say you do it the 3 days before the consultation, the day of the consultation, right? And then you sleep on it. And then the next day you re-pull them again just to make sure, A, no, there's no updated information, no updated data, right? Sometimes B, you could just miss something where like maybe you now found a couple more comps that could essentially kind of sway your range a little bit. But man, when you do that, and let's say by the 3rd day, the day where you're supposed to be with them, and you've repull comps like 2 to 3 times, your confidence level is going to be at such a high level. And I'm here to tell you, they hire you based on your confidence, not always based on your competence. Let me say that one more time. They hire you based on your confidence, not solely based on your competence, right? Because the reality is, I can determine how competent you are as a real estate agent because I understand the process that you go through. So you could say some stuff to me and I would say, I don't think that makes sense. But that's because I do this for a living. But a seller, they're not a real estate agent, they're not a real estate professional. So sometimes you could be saying the wrong stuff, but you're saying it with confidence and you win the listing because of confidence and commissions go hand in hand, right? Now, I'm also a sole believer. I'm also a believer that in order to build confidence, right, you got to stack evidence that you are who you say you are. You got to become more competent so then you can have more accomplishments and then you build confidence. I do believe in that. But man, if you just show up because of your research, extremely confident in the research, wow. I mean, you're already going to put yourself into a very it's a good place to be in. Okay. Moving on. Phase 3, presentation. So this is the part that what's crazy. This is the part where I found out after thousands of conversations with agents, most of us don't even have a presentation. And to those people who don't, I would say get one as soon as possible. You cannot just show up with a contract. You have to present your value. Okay. I think what we do is as real estate professionals, we majority of us avoid doing the hard work like prospecting, right? Nurtures, and we only want to work with people that we know already, SOI, COI. And with those people, we've been reinforced to think it's okay to just show up with a contract because, hey, my mom's going to sign with me regardless, or my cousin or my best friend, they're going to sign with me regardless, and they do. And unfortunately, that's a reinforcement of bad habits because I'm here to tell you there's been family members of people that I know, okay, that had a family member local that was in real estate. And that was who I was competing with. And one, the family member showed up, didn't present any value, like literally just assumed that because they're family, that she owned the business. I showed up as a professional, looked the part, spoke the part, presented the part, and earned the listing because I transferred confidence. Number one, I honored the client's time and I showed respect by presenting information to help educate them and help them make the right decision that they deemed right for their family. And so I earned the right to get the business. Now I ended up because that person was family to the client. I paid the family member a referral because we didn't want Thanksgiving to be weird for that family. However, I earned the business just from showing up and having a presentation, following this process, having a presentation, and just earning the business, right? So get a presentation if you do not have one. And the presentation is where you give information. This is where you give. This is where you educate on why to sell now. Okay. This is where you, by the way, you've earned the right to be tenacious. You've earned the right to to be tenacious. Like this is a good thing. You've earned it. And you've earned the right to assume the sale because again, how you gathered information, how you prepared, and then how you're presenting, you can assume that you're the agent for them and you can say that, you can use that language to get the answer that you want. Okay. Again, this is all in the best interest of the client. So, phase 3 is presentation. What do you put in a presentation? That's a whole nother podcast episode. But one thing I will say is sellers always want 3 things no matter what, no matter the price point, no matter the location, no matter the situation, they want 3 things. They want to know 3 things. Okay. Number one, they want to know what am I going to net money in pocket when I sell this property. So they need to know price and then what they're going to net. That's one though. Like we're going to say those two, we'll just say price. What is the price that I can get and what is that net going to be? Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, condition. Is the condition of my house currently sufficient to get me the money that I want? Do I need to make any changes? Do I need to make any updates? Is my current property in the proper condition to get me what I want money wise? And then number 3 is, agent, do I like you? Do I feel confident that you could sell the home? And just quite frankly, are you the right agent? Right? So they gotta like you. They gotta feel confident that you can get the job done. So price, condition, agent. If you can incorporate that into your presentation, then you're good. You're good. And there's plenty of great presentations out there. Here at Silverline Real Estate Group, my real estate team, we have our 10 years worth of just trial and error and learning, and right, we've kind of created our own, and we've taken some things from different people, right? And then some of my own experiences, I've been able to just we're going to incorporate this. I know this works well because I've tried it hundreds of times and it worked. And so we've kind of created our silver lining presentation, and it took 10 years to come up with a very, very good one. I'm here to tell you, you don't need to do that. You can go to a real estate coach. You can go to there's different platforms and things that you could tap into to get listing presentations. But since you're on this podcast, here's what I would do for you. If you want to hear or see what our presentation is to give you an idea, or even if you want to use our presentation that took us over 10 years to develop, to where now we sign. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. So over the past, I'm literally pulling data. Let's see if I can. Let's see. Over the past 6 months, check this out. This is real data. Over the past 6 months, we've met with 61 sellers. So we've actually presented to 61 sellers and we signed 56. Let me say that one more time. We've actually presented to 61 sellers and we signed 56. That's a 92% conversion rate. 92. Okay. So if you can convert at a 92% conversion rate, which honestly, if you're 70% and above, you're doing pretty good. I would consider that elite. We're at 92%. So yeah, what I would recommend is make sure you got a presentation. I will start there, honestly. Get a presentation that you're confident with, because it's going to be very hard to be confident on a phone call. And knowing that even if there's an opportunity to set an appointment, you may be a little afraid to set the appointment because, oh my God, now I got to present to somebody and I don't have a presentation. Get a presentation. Reach out to me I'm on Facebook, High Value Agent. Respond, comment on the podcast, and I will get back to you and send you our presentation, and or I will do a podcast kind of breaking down what we do in our listing presentation. So you don't have an excuse. If you don't have a presentation, now you don't have an excuse. You can literally reach out to me and I will support you there. Okay. Because if you can convert at a 92% conversion rate, then at that point, you're going to do pretty dang good in your business. And I promise you, you're not going to have to expend or spend so much energy running all around the state showing buyers properties. Okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but We need to transition into being more listing focused so we can get more leverage back on our time. Okay. Cool. All right, y'all. Like I said, reach out to me if you want more help on what does a presentation need to look like. How can I increase my conversion rate there? All this stuff kind of goes hand in hand, but reach out to me if you need help with the presentation side. As always, I'm here to support you guys and give back. You guys be strong out there, be powerful, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.